Okay.
Okay, guys. All right. We are live. We are live with the tennis doctor. The tennis doctor is in Spain tonight, which is pretty cool. I do just want to say up front, if we do have trouble with connection, I apologize because it seems like we're both having issues with the connection. I don't know if it is the actual app itself, or I know Vincent is here in Spain. So I just want to apologize in advance and bear with us. But it's great to see everybody out here tonight. And then I want to welcome the tennis doctor, Vincent, who I really love his stuff. And we're here to talk about the science of professional technique. So, Vincent, welcome. And tell us as well, what do you plan on sharing with us tonight?
So, thanks for having me again, Pete. It's always a pleasure to be on here. Anybody who is taking time out of their day to study a program of this nature, I just want to say first off that you deserve my admiration and gratitude. Thank you for investing your time into advancing your game. Tonight, we're going to be covering what I would consider a mathematical and scientific approach to tennis technique. I think the root issue when a lot of people are trying to discover how to advance their game is that they are usually solving the wrong problem. And this could be, the guidance that's being given to them by their coach. And it's hard to know what to do, especially with something as nuanced as tennis technique. So tonight, me and Pete here are going to help guide you in the right direction, and hopefully, when you finish watching this video, you'll have a lot more clarity on the next steps.
hmm Very good. Very good. Hopefully, you guys caught that. I know it went in and out again. Man, Vincent, this is tough. But so, uh, how did you kind of come up with this whole approach? I mean, you're a pretty young guy, but I've been watching your videos, and I've told you this before in person or us talking. You seem wise beyond your years. How did you start to come up with this whole method of teaching, and how did it come so important to you?
So, first off, I would like to give credit where credit is due. I am only a messenger of all of the concepts that I share with people on my channel. Um, when I was growing up, I had a lot of help from my father, and I like to tell people he's the real tennis doctor. And he really cared about my game when I was a competitive player, and he did guide me in the right direction. And then when I became a coach, I really understood the kind of places where I should be taking my information. So every time that I give, advice, or some of the people in here have watched my videos, I don't just really make stuff up. Um, I like to say like causes produce like effects. So what the best of the best are teaching to their students, that's what I try and emulate as well. Full disclosure, I use identical methods to, people that basically charge hundreds of dollars an hour. I've taken hundreds of private lessons to advance my own game. And the things that I teach is the things that you would learn if you went to, for example, a serious academy, or if you, paid a Rick Macy $800 an hour for a tennis lesson. So things like this, essentially. I very carefully selected mentors are the foundations of my teachings.
hmm hmm Great. And as far as if somebody were to, they're out there, a lot of people are out there watching our videos on their own and trying to develop their own game on their own. What kind of advice would you give them to, so many people when they watch videos, they want to hit like the pros, they want to have really good technique, but so many people really struggle to develop it. What do you think are the keys to success, and what do you think are some of the pitfalls to being able to develop really, really good technique?
So many people try a combination of systems and theories by multiple coaches, and usually they fail in all because of a lack of clarity, right? People receive conflicting information. The best thing to do is to study one system, first of all, and to stick with it. And I did open this call by saying many people end up solving the wrong problem. So, of course, we're here to talk about the real problem tonight, which is the technique. I get emails all the time from people, telling me about their match momentum, their racket or their fitness, or it's like, how do I stop, you know, whatever, missing this shot. But really, we're trying to fix the symptoms instead of the system, right? I like to say fix the system, not the symptoms. So what's really the root cause here? Because you can blame the line calls, the weather, that the opponent is being rude or something, but all of these little things will basically become irrelevant if you solve the actual problem, which is fixing the technique. It's really the only answer. It's the first step, it's the foundations, and it should be always, always the first focus, right? Before you even think about trying to build a strategy or winning ugly, going into the silence and meditating, doing breathing exercises with the inner game of tennis. And it's not to say that those things aren't great, but you're going to be depriving yourself of a lot of fun and enjoyment if you don't take the time to, develop proper swings to begin with. And of course, it's hard for a lot of people to find this, even if you have the means and you know that this is what you need to do, right? It's like even in the best locations, you may not really learn the right stuff, right? Like you do have to
Hmm.
obviously
Hmm.
train at, a good club, you know, with a good coach. But, here's the interesting part. If you have, let's say, two people training at the same club, they're being taught the exact same thing. And this person is doing way better, but they're both being taught the same thing. Two people often train the exact same way as well. They do the same exercises, the same drills, and one person wins while the other person fails. So if we just take the outside perspective, if we just zoom out for a second, if we just look in on this from the perspective of the witness, it shows us that winning is the result of doing things in a certain way. And basically, my philosophy is if you swing a certain way, whether on purpose or accidentally, you're basically going to win. And a lot of it
Hmm.
starts with the forehand for a lot of people, right? That's the kind of the shot that people are controlling the points with, serves, returns as well. And to me, it's very apparent in junior tennis, especially. We see two people at the same academy. One of them's killing it, playing ITF tournaments, maybe even pro. There may even be people working harder than them. They've got the same coach, they train in the same place, and one person wins while the other person fails, right? We could say this is a result of having modern strokes and, next gen tennis. And I would say even I, use these words a lot. But what I'm coming to realize more and more now is that essentially none of the pro methods are actually modern at all. The only thing that's really changed are the grips, which changes the orientation of the racket head. The equipment's a little bit different. Maybe the athletes are a little bit better, right? We're seeing a little bit more. variety, uniqueness. But, location doesn't really matter. Of course, you don't really want to go to Africa or Antarctica to learn modern tennis. But other than that, we see pro players originate from literally every speck of the earth, right?
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
also no coincidence that a lot of the pros originate from the same academies at a certain age. They usually go to Bolletary, IMG, even Mouratoglou. A lot of people dislike Patrick Mouratoglou. I think he's an excellent coach and he produces results.
Mm.
And maybe he just doesn't give away a lot of his stuff. But if you watch how his players all swing in a certain way, it indicates that there is a little bit of a scientific method behind his teachings. And once it's kind of pointed out to you, you will notice what I like to call the common threads among all pros, right? All pro strokes. They're basically doing the exact same thing. We see a little bit more of a variation between the male players and the female players. But even now, we're seeing a little bit more of a shift in that as well, where almost everybody is basically doing the exact same thing. And
Hmm.
a lot of
That's
people
true.
think that a lot of people think that they, shouldn't be learning in this way and that it's too difficult for them, right? That they should just kind of start with basic progressions. And I think it's just really an issue of it not being simplified for people properly. Because, just like everything that kind of seems complex, the answer is usually simple. There's usually a most simple and direct route to the goal. There's only one way to really think scientifically, right? There is a faster way, there is a better way. And that's what I try and do on my channel. I try and simplify things for people. So yeah.
Okay. That's great. So a couple of things that I thought you said that were pretty interesting. There is a lot of contradiction out there where some people say it's all about the technique that's going to get you to that next level, and some people say no, it doesn't really matter the technique. It's more about shot selection and or maybe being fitter. I mean, obviously, I think everything's important. That's why tennis I think is such a challenging sport. There's so many ingredients, and so I don't necessarily think anybody's absolutely wrong on this, but you definitely are throwing your hat in the ring and saying, technique is so important. So why do you think it is the number one most important thing that is going to give you the most bang for your buck, I guess would be a good way to put it.
So let's just take my own game for an example. I trained like an animal my entire life, right? And you guys can basically confirm this yourself. If you just look at my UTR, you can look at the chart. It basically looks like Bitcoin. It's like for many years, it's like, zzz, 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 and then it just goes. At one point, it just goes like this. It goes from like a 6 to like a almost an 11. And then I started coaching. I just basically stopped playing. And essentially, prior to this huge quantum leap, I was actually trying way harder. I put everything all full force. I couldn't have done anything more except the thing that was missing was my technique, right? And that's really how I can thank my dad for kind of pointing me in the right direction, discovering these, modern principles. I was lifting weights every single day, going on 15K runs, an hour of fitness, reading strategy, reading so many books, training with dozens of coaches. The one thing that made the biggest difference was first learning the modern forehand and then basically realizing that everything else there's just a better way than the way that I was doing things. I didn't understand the kinetic chain at all. I had flawed strokes. It was amazing that I even did as well as I did. And it's crazy because around the time that I learned how to swing properly, I actually stopped playing. Like I didn't really train hard at all. I was like I was partying. I was just enjoying life. And I was actually doing better in tournaments. Everything else, now looking back at it all, Everything else was basically just an illusion. The only thing that was wrong was that I wasn't swinging properly. I was trying so hard, and I couldn't understand why people who were less fit than me, like of lesser athletic ability and talent, were beating me, right? And you can probably relate to this yourself at your club, right? Somebody could be worse than you, but they're more consistent, right? They're less talented, they're less fit, right? We see extremely intelligent people win. We see stupid people win. We see we see people who look like, they could be like modeling, right? They're just so fit. We see people who are kind of out of shape. People in poor health win. Healthy people win. Even at the pro level, it's a little bit less common now, but there's like pro players that eat McDonald's. They even say, like, yeah, I don't really train that hard, right? Nick Kyrgios is kind of an example. I mean, he claims he doesn't train hard, but I actually believe it because his technique is actually, it's fundamentally, it's superior, it's perfect. And I'm sure that there are people who train way harder than him. And, you know,
Hmm.
he, it's either you either swing this way by accident, somebody either told you, or your coach just knows. You're not really gonna, it's very difficult to kind of stumble upon this stuff by accident. So that's in my experience, kind of what happens.
Hmm. Now, you did say one thing that I want to get a little clarification on, though. You did say, well, so what is the difference when you said somebody's at a club, they have the same coach, they have the same training, yet one person wins, the other one doesn't do as well? Well, what is the one person doing that's winning versus the one person that isn't winning? Because you would assume that they would have similar technique, which is what we're talking about. So what is the one person getting, and what is the one person not getting?
So it could be, something pretty small. On the forehand, I think it's the most sort of obvious. It's people who basically start the swing with a loop and people who don't, right? People who kind of understand the racket flip. A huge modern element on the forehand, right? Inverting the tennis racket. And if you go back, you can see videos of Bjorn Borg inverting the racket to the extremes, right? I would say that's kind of the first huge modern element that we see in the forehand today. And that's usually a big thing that I notice. It's something that I like to show people. It's almost a little bit of a quick fix to the stroke where you just have this initial delay, right? Some people, they kind of just do certain things by accident, right? There is a lot of things with the rhythm, staying down with the legs. And usually, you know, people with the same coach, they all kind of just look different. And it would kind of indicate that winning is not primarily a matter of traditional coaching tips, right? Now you can go out, you can have a lesson, right? You can hit a bunch of balls, get some exercise, and a lot of the balls will probably go in. So at the
Oh, I just
ending and
lost him.
stuff, uh, back.
Okay, you're back. We lost you for a second. It seems like you're
Okay.
back. Yeah.
So yeah, as I was saying, right? You can go out, you can train, you can hit a bunch of balls. Most of them will land in. You'll get a few pointers, and at the end of the lesson, you can conclude. The coach can conclude that they caused an increase in your game, right? But you have to ask, did the patient really need the medicine in the first place, right? I like to say, I do like to use the term snake oil a lot. It's miracle mixtures, you know. They put together a potion of drills and tips. They administer it in a private lesson, you know. You feel great, but would you have gotten better without the tips anyways? Would the ball have still gone in? And what's going to happen when you go and play a match? And this is why people can't understand why they play good in practice and poor in a match. Because basically, when there's no movement involved, when you know where the ball's going, when it's being planted on your strings, you can swing any way you want. It doesn't matter. You can probably get the ball in. Like you could use your opposite hand and it would probably go in. But this is kind of the illusion with most people. It's not it's not going to work in a competitive setting. So, yeah.
Okay. So this is another interesting thing then, is you're going to have a lot of people watching who are going to go, okay, well, I hear everything he's saying. Technique is the answer, but why is it? Because you said a very big thing that everybody will agree with you. Why do I play good in practice but not good in matches? And they'll also say, I know I lose to people that, maybe I don't have perfect technique, but I know the person I lost to today definitely doesn't have as good a technique as me. So, what is the key to developing really good technique that will also translate to the match court and not just in your private lesson hour to where the coach and you go, wow, I hit so good today. And then all of a sudden it falls apart on Sunday. What is the key to developing good technique that when you go play somebody who doesn't look as good as you hitting the ball, that you win matches?
So, one thing that's very good is you should find pro players that use the same grips as you. Because if we're accepting the statement that pro players all swing in the same way, then you should try and emulate the ones that have the same grip. The biggest issue is that people try and copy a player who has a different grip than them. So, for example, uh, players with an Eastern forehand grip will usually have an extreme kind of pat the dog position. Like the string bed will be pointing directly to the floor. Whereas we see players with more extreme grips at the same point of the swing, they're doing the exact same thing with their hand, but the string bed will be basically facing the back fence at that same part in the stroke. And just to clarify, let me just get my racket so I can show you
Okay.
guys what I'm talking about.
I'm going to put him in the sole layout. Um, so let's see if I can do
Let
that.
me just get some more space here.
Oh, we just
Yeah.
lost them.
Can you see me?
I see you.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Okay. So look
I can
here.
hear you.
Eastern forehand grip, right? Roger Federer, right? Let's go through the modern forehand, right? We've got the unit turn, and initially, right here, most people make the mistake of not starting the swing from right here. I know it looks insane, right? Starting from right here, I haven't even turned my body yet, but this is what happens in pro tennis. And you will see if the player actually arrives to the ball early, they will wait until the ball bounces to pull the racket back any further. You will see them stalling in this, what I like to say, 45-degree angle position. We'll get to here, they'll wait. They'll usually take cha cha steps, Ferrari steps. The backswing and forward swing will be a blended, fluid motion. You'll have a compact loop, right? A very small loop, but it won't go past about here. It'll stay on the hitting side of the body, and we'll see different variations of racket face angle. Okay? They're all passing through the neighborhood. They're setting their hand at the height of the ball. There's no extra movements. And it's a very linear through and across wrap around the chest. Okay? But a lot of people back here is where they make the mistakes, right? We see players looking like this. Now my strings are kind of just pointing to pretend that's the back fence behind the court. But if I change my grip, so look here, I'm going to do the exact same thing with my hand, right? Let's just say this is my swing, right? Let's use an Eastern forehand grip, right? I've got the pat the dog, but it's just a natural evolution. Now I'm going to slide my hand over. I'm going to do the exact same thing, the exact same swing. Watch what happens to the racket face. Now I kind of look like Sinner, right? This is more of the Novak position, but we're doing the exact same thing with our hand. We get to the contact point, and the arm travels as an independent piece, right? That's another thing. People really over rotate. They don't really understand the fundamentals of what happens, but essentially the forward swing, the everything after contact point is almost only the arm going by itself. It's not a manipulation of the wrist or the lower arm. Almost every stroke is actually driven from shoulder rotation. We're never squeezing the grip. And it's the same for the forehand, the one handed backhand, the serve. Everything is basically driven from shoulder rotation. You don't really have to understand the science too much at all. Like, you don't have to complicate it, right? Modern forehand, there's basically four main components that you should start out with, right? No matter what your grip is. Number one, compact outside backswing. The racket remaining on the hitting side of the body, a minimalistic unit turn, a swing that is started with shoulder and feet preparation, right? The body's got to move more than the racket. You are getting to the ball early, but you're setting your body. You're going to leave the racket in front. And that's kind of the big thing that advanced tennis players have that intermediate players don't, right? So after you've got the compact outside backswing, the second thing, the second common thread is the non-hitting hand, right? Falling, what I like to say, across the table. You've got level shoulders in the take back, the hands out like we're surfing, and it stays up here, basically out until the last second, right? We could talk about many benefits of whatever, ball striking, distance from the ball. The main thing is, if it's good enough for the pros, it's probably good enough for you as well. So you should do it without even thinking about it, right? Like causes produce like effects. There's a reason they do it, whether on purpose or by accident. You should copy it as well, right?
Good stuff.
Second thing, yeah, and just a few other things. We usually see players use a semi-open stance, right? Another thing is people kind of get screwed up with the footwork. They don't really know what to do, um, and that's another thing as well. Maybe that's where we kind of get a bigger separation between intermediate and advanced level tennis. But usually, most of the issues are really up here in the swing. The footwork is usually actually an easy fix if you have a clear plan. A great resource, if you wish to really understand advanced tennis footwork. And I actually saw he's one of the coaches this year at Tennis Con is David Bailey, this Australian guy. He's developed an excellent system. It's very thorough, and in my opinion, it's spot on. I've actually used some of his stuff to improve my own game. So, uh, I really like his footwork
Good stuff.
stuff.
All right, I'm
Yeah, yeah,
I'm coming
that's
back to
all. That's
join you.
all.
It's good stuff. What was I going to say? First of all, I just want to appreciate everybody for hanging on. We're pretty much now around 100 people on, which is great. Hopefully everything's coming through clear. I think sometimes we're coming through clear, other times it's a little patchy. Um, Okay, so I think this would maybe a good thing to do to get into to kind of finish up tonight is you have people on board and they're like, all right, I really want to get my technique right. And if this is too much to do, just let me know. But if we could just maybe walk through a 30-day plan of like, all right, if I were to work with you for 30 days, this these are like the drills I would have you do, or this is the environment I want you in, or like the steps of the environment, the different environments I would put you on to test your technique. Like, what would be your method to get them to develop really good technique to where it is durable in match play? Because I think that's where a lot of people fall off. I think a lot of people have watched a lot of videos. They understand a lot of what we're saying. It's not like they've go, I've never heard this before. I mean, I think the beautiful thing about online instruction is you hear little things. You're like, well, I've never heard it quite like that. I've heard it similar. That's a really good tip. I think now I'm going to think about it a little different. And I think that can get us closer to the answer. But I think what a lot of people are missing is the system, or they've either never been shown the system or they're shown the system and then they don't follow the system. So, what would you do to take somebody along in a 30-day plan?
So let's assume that you have the system. You've, you've taken whatever, an intensive training program. Somebody has clearly laid it out for you. You know what to do. Like you know exactly what to do. So now where do you start? Right? Like you're by yourself, whatever, you've got your friend, you've got like a training partner every day, you and your training partner, you're going to show up from 6 to 8 a.m. at the club, you're going to play. What are you going to do in that 2 hours every day for 30 days? And this is where most people make their failure, right? I think Alexander Graham Bell, the sun's rays don't burn until they come to a focus, right? You want to
Uh,
focus on one thing. I know that sounds a little bit insane, but this is how you get better at tennis, right? Focus on one thing and get it perfect before you move on. For example, you know, like people kind of wonder like how I got my backhand, how I did. Well, first I learned the proper technique, and then I only trained backhands for about 6 months. A huge mistake people make as well is going straight to hard hitting from the baseline. Like me and my friend, we would show up every day, basically 6 a.m. at the courts, and we would just toss each other balls. So, first is tossing balls from the service line. Can you consistently hit on a straight line? Can you hit 300 balls in a row at a slow pace? You don't have to move the racket fast. Then you do ball feeds from the baseline. And then when you get into rallies, one thing I like to do is starting mini tennis. I've gone out times, I've done mini tennis for an hour, literally. Then I move to the alley. Can I hit in the alley mini tennis for an hour? You start setting up targets. But everything needs to be very controlled. You know, we see the illusion of pros kind of just smacking the ball right when they're on TV, when they're warming up at tournaments, but that's really just like the sort of the thin veneer of what's happening, because behind the scenes, they're doing the little stuff, they're doing the boring stuff that we don't really see often. But you can find videos of when pros are kind of training by themselves, they're not always smacking the ball. They'll do the basic stuff. Hand feeds are great. I think that's one of the best things that you can do, one of the best investments of your time. If you don't have a partner, I spent years doing self feeding, or what we call drop hits. Just have a basket of 100 balls, step up to the baseline, you toss the ball to yourself, practice your perfect fundamentals, perfect balance. And, rallying is like step number 10. Like if you're going, it's like a Formula One race. If you're making mistakes in gear one and gear two, right? Mini tennis, what's gonna happen when you start, you know, flooring it, right? Maybe like you'll accelerate really fast for a second and then you're gonna start swerving, and then it's just like, what happens when you press the gas really fast and then you let go? right? It usually just drops instantly, right? And then you start, you know, blaming your like electrolytes or like you didn't do your breathing exercises. It's not that. Everything else is an illusion. Your opponent's not an asshole. Your technique is just bad. That's it.
Mhm. That is really good. I love how you said rallying is like step number 10. And it is so true. I'm working now with a small select people on their serve to where we're not only just saying videos, because I used to have people send a video, then I just send back my feedback, and then uh, I know that people just misinterpret information so easily that I wanted to then have like a face-to-face meeting with them. So I'm doing that with just it's like a pilot program, and so if you're kind of like I don't know about this, I'll you'll hear more about it probably after TennisCon, and if you want to do it, I can do it for a limited amount of people. But the thing that always fascinates me, and that's why I want to have these little face-to-face meetings, is I'll be talking to them face to face and I will show them what they're doing wrong. And I will say, okay, the next video you send in, I just want to see this. This is it. That's it. Don't show me anything else. And almost it's still amazing. You could be that specific. And then the next video that comes in, they're doing a drill like 3 or 4 steps down the road. And I'll be like, "Well, why didn't you do the thing I asked you to do?" And they will say something like, "Well, I did that. I just didn't video it, and I wanted to again show you my full serve or something like that." Usually, they want to always show you the full thing. Like they just are obsessed with showing you the full thing, and I'll be like, I didn't want to see I don't care about the full thing because until we could do this one thing, your old habit is still going to be there. No matter how much you wish it wasn't there, it's still going to be there. So that's probably the biggest takeaway that I wish everybody would get. It seems that the online audience, no matter how many times they hear this stuff, they still want to skip ahead. They kind of go, yeah, yeah, I got it. That makes sense. But then I'll kind of do that in my drill. But you are so obsessed with getting the whole thing done. And I think that is the difference between people who have good information and their level raises a lot versus people who have the same information and it doesn't go as far as you want it to go. Like Vincent even saying, I will hit in the short court for an hour. A lot of people probably know about hitting the short court, but they're probably like after 3 minutes, okay, let's go back. And you might not think that you have the time to do this because you're not a spring chicken anymore. But it's kind of like that tortoise and the hare analogy is if you take more time methodically, you'll find that you actually have more time than you think you have to do all this stuff. And when you look back 6 months from now, which seems so long to think about, but really it's not that long at all, you will be a much better player if you're willing to do some of the stuff that Vincent just said. Do you, did any kind of you want to piggyback on that at all, Vincent?
Yeah. Don't skip steps. Of course, if you have a system and a clear plan, you can save yourself a lot of time. But, don't take shortcuts. You know, it's important to know how to use good tools properly, right? You can give one person a paintbrush and another person a paintbrush. You can give them the same set of tools. One person will paint a masterpiece and the other will be a botch, right? That's
Hmm.
basically it. Pete couldn't have said it any better. And, if you guys would like to learn exactly what I'm talking about, I actually just published a 626-page book talking about every single professional tennis technique. And there's also pictures as well. And you can order the paperback on Amazon if you would like to have, the system that I talk about. It's basically a summation of all the mentors that I think everybody could learn from. And I've just organized it. Um, and yeah, I come from a very educational background. So, I would say my specialty is just I'm a messenger. You know, I'm not a guru. I'm not like a genius. I didn't just come up with this stuff. I'm just good at presenting information. I know the right information and I try and simplify it for people to save them time. And I've also got a great free resource as well a course that you can take that complements the book. So check it out. The book is called Tennis Doctor: The Science of Professional Tennis. If you guys are interested in that, and Tennis Con is coming up. Um, I would definitely take advantage of it. Like even I watch the videos. Like I'm gonna be learning stuff as well. Because it really is the mastermind. Like it couldn't really get any better than this. And you can save a lot of time searching down YouTube rabbit holes when the best information is kind of just put there in front of you. People who have trained pro players, and don't be shy to take advantage, even if you're a beginner or intermediate. It's definitely worth the time learning the stuff that may seem a little bit challenging at first, but all of the coaches uh, have taken great care to ensure that it's laid out clearly for you and that there is a clear roadmap.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, that to me is a really big difference too, because I think with online instruction, there are so many great videos, but it's like, okay, which one do you listen to, and who are the best ones at it? And then what I really like about where we just lost him again. Here he is. Where I really
Oh,
like where Tennis Con has gone is that you know it's nice to see shorts. Sometimes you can get a good tip in a short, but if you're really trying to get the progression of everything, this can't be presented in a short. You might hear something or like, oh, that's a cool thing that I'm going to think about on my stroke. But, all these shorts on YouTube and Instagram, which basically the internet is basically saying, the social media channels are saying, like, you better do that if you want us to keep showing your stuff. I
yeah.
don't think it is the best learning resource. So the thing that I love about Tennis Con and things that like you put together is it's a master class. Every lesson you're going to get, is probably going to be a minimum of 10 minutes long. Jorge Capistani did a video that's amazing this year on doubles. It's 55 minutes long and it's really good. And uh, the tennis doc here, Vincent, has submitted like 10 videos that we're going to be able to put for you inside of Tennis Con. So really great stuff. And if you have checked my email of the last couple of days promoting this live stream, if you haven't already, make sure you go back and you click on Vincent's link because he gave away some free training. So what is the free training link that I've been putting in the email? What exactly do they get with that?
uh, it's the entire system. It's basically stripped of all non-essentials. It covers the main components of the forehand, one-handed backhand, two-handed backhand, serve, return, and approach shots. So yeah, volleys and overheads as well. It's only technique. That's the only thing that you will learn. And there's drills as well, clear progressions. And I'm even in the process of updating the videos as well, making the content better and better all the time. So you'll have it for life if you take it. Yeah.
Guys, definitely take advantage of that. Okay, final question, Vincent.
Yes.
I need to know this. Have you either lived on this planet before, or are you a vampire and are really like 500 years old? Like you just said, you wrote a 626-page book. You put out more content that I can even keep up with, and they're all pretty good too. So like, tell us the secret. Are you really a vampire, or have you lived on this planet before? There's something going on that's not normal for somebody your age.
So I can credit having excellent mentors. When I was a coach at a tennis club, I was just a regular Joe Schmo. Instead of charging people $50 to $70 for a lesson, you can meet a lot of successful people at a tennis club, especially the club that I worked at. Very successful businessmen. I gave people free lessons and I just asked for self-help. I was like, hey, like which books should I read? How can I like get to the next level? Because a mentor, just like a tennis coach, they can always see the next level of you that you can't see yourself. So I immersed myself in some very carefully selected self-help. I actually dropped out of university in second year to pursue what I'm doing now, all this online stuff. So I had to learn some things. My friend told me first shape your habits, and your habits will shape you, and that's a really big thing. I'm very into personal development, uh, personal productivity. I've taken some great courses. I've read some great books, and I will be making a productivity course uh, one day. Maybe I'll share the secrets of how I made over 500 YouTube videos in 1 year. And I think some pretty cool stuff that a lot of people would benefit from. But yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty cool. Just want to thank one of our viewers who said just went on Amazon and bought your book.
Oh,
That was
lovely.
very nice. Very nice. So cool, cool stuff. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining tonight. The Tennis Doctor, you were fantastic. I'm going to review the video to see how smoothly or not smoothly it played. Maybe I might have to chop it up to make just the smooth parts go. But what I've been telling everybody is as TennisCon goes on, not only the week of TennisCon, but a lot of these great live streams that we're having, we're going to put that inside the lifetime library as well. So you don't have to be stumbling around and trying to find it, because a lot of these videos will not be easy to find on YouTube. But it's just all going to be inside of the coaching library if you get a lifetime pass, and it won't be there in your free week, but it will be there for lifetime members. And remember, TennisCon this year starts October 28th. And we're doing lots of cool events. We had Will Buchek, who went through a great doubles lesson just a couple of days ago. I'm having Marissa Johnson come up on Wednesday. We're going to do some tennis fitness. Then the following week, you're going to hear from former top 200 player Gabby Paz, who's she's really cranking out the content too, buddy. She's after you, I think. Gabby, have you seen her?
You know, so I'm completely unplugged. I don't scroll on social media. Like I'm
Oh,
not I don't s- I actually turned off my homepage on YouTube. That's one of the things that I do to stay so productive. I don't like to consume content. I'm always creating it instead. That's kind of like how I stay, because the tipping point is very small. You can kind of it's easy to just go down like this funnel. It's like, "Oh, I blinked. Half an hour went by. You blink again. I'm at the fridge now. What's happening?" You know? It's like basically,
we should have you come
yeah.
back for a just a talk on productivity. This is fantastic. You said something that Russell Brunson said, who I really like. I don't know if you followed him at all, but he says, you're either a consumer of content or a creator. And he said you want to be a creator in today's world. So you're definitely a creator. I'm guilty of scrolling, though, I got to say. But I can make the excuse to say, well, I've got to find new talent every year for TennisCon.
Oh,
So
of
that's my
course.
excuse. But
Yeah, yeah.
but I think what you said is very, very, very valuable advice. And I could take a little bit of that advice myself. So that was good. All right, young man, you did another outstanding job. Overall video
Thank
went
you.
well. I saw 2.5 seconds of glitches. I bought a lifetime course as usual already. Dr. Tom Nordstrom, perennial amazing guy, follower of all our stuff here. So great stuff.
Beautiful.
Guys, have an awesome night. Tennis Doctor, go get some sleep. You're in Spain. He's in Spain right now teaching. Dreams do come true
Yeah.
when you get focused. I'll tell you that. So good job.
It's it's 2:50 a.m.
Wow.